that you all will know watching the videos for our lovely Title IX presentation. So I will turn it over to our presenters so that they can introduce themselves. And please, please, please give your full undivided attention. This is a super important topic that you all as student leaders need to know so that you can help us to address any issues that we have on campus. So we have wonderful presenters this afternoon, and I hope that you all give them your full attention.
No pressure. You guys hear me okay? Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you guys so much. You're in day 2 of a 3-day leadership retreat. I know you guys have got a lot of great information about knowledge, but I'm keenly aware that we stand between a light dinner and top golf. So I don't know if that's intentional on Ebony's part or not, so we promise to be engaging and informative. And all we ask of you guys is that you actually participate and that you give us your full attention. As Ebony said, my name is Carla Dozier, and I have the pleasure of serving as your Title IX coordinator here at Maryville University. And my esteemed guest and co-host today will be Ariel Watkins.
Hi, my name is Ariel Watkins. Yes, can you hear me? Yeah. So I'm a senior here. That's a little scary to say. I'm a nursing major and psych minor, and I hope in Step Up, which is our family intervention program, and in Heroes as health educator.
Before we really dive into the meat of the presentation, I want to be clear and respectful of you as students, student leaders, and members of this community, and be transparent and say there will be topics, videos, and information today that might potentially be triggers for some of you. And what's most important today is that you take care of yourself. And so if you need to step out, or you don't want to, or don't feel like you can engage in some of the commentary, please know it is not required in this presentation. Is that clear? Anybody have any questions before we get started? So in preparing for this presentation, I was keenly aware that this was a great responsibility. Title IX keeps me up at night, whether people believe it or not, because I understand how important this topic is for Maryville and how important it is for our student leaders and our campus community. So my last minute preparations last night, my husband was like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm reviewing my slides and getting ready for tomorrow." He said, "Well, I got 2 pieces of advice for you." One, he said, don't do anything to not get invited back. And I see your slides, and there are a lot of them. So I can be real clear, they're not going to want to see all those slides, so keep it brief. The second thing he said was, don't be whack. So I'm going to attempt to keep it brief and not be whack. But again, this information is important, so I want your attention. And I titled this Leading with Influence because each of you serve in very special roles on campus and organizations. And whether or not you've learned it, heard it, or felt it, you have great influence on this campus. And you have the ability to be able to influence your peers, your faculty, your staff, and the campus community. And I want us to harness that influence for a really important topic called Title IX. Prior to today, who in here has not heard about Title IX? There's a no judgment zone, there is no shame. If this is the first time you are hearing about Title IX or seeing my face or hearing my name. That's good, excellent, right? How many of you have had interactions with my office, whether from a volunteer perspective, attended events and programs, or taken an online Title IX training? So in addition to getting good information today, I'm also open to really critical but professional feedback, because we're not perfect. As professionals, we want to continue to grow. So if you have interactions, gone to trainings, or been a part of our Title IX module training, if you have areas for improvement, please feel like you can share. There will be no judgment, and there will be no negative recourse if you're honest about what you're interacting with thus far. So this very first slide is really important because it's got my contact information on it. So if you have your cell phone or a tablet, please take time to screenshot this slide right here. And what's most important on the slide is the word available 24/7. I never want students in our community to feel like, is this the right time? But it's Saturday. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. If there are issues and concerns involving Title IX that involve you, your classmate, or your peers, you never have to wonder, can I reach out, should I reach out? I respond to texts, emails, telephone calls. My Apple Watch is connected to my work cell phone, so it's always with me. And you never have to feel like you're bothering me. Anybody, is that clear? So who was going to text me if they need me at 2 o'clock in the morning? I'm going to hold you to that. Only thing is, if you text, please tell me who you are. Students start texting right away and don't tell me who they are. I gotta ask you who you are. That's my information. Here's a little bit about Ariel, and she's gonna explain to you guys today about the Step Up program as we get further along with the presentation. Brief, quick agenda. So we'll talk a little bit about Title IX, so everybody has familiarity. I will not painfully go through every single slide, but I will show you a quick 2-minute video that encompasses what Title IX is and the highlights are most important. We'll talk about my role as Title IX coordinator, what I do all day long, and then we'll talk about rape culture and toxic masculinity. Who's familiar with those terms? Yeah, okay. We'll talk then about student leaders and what is your role in this process and how do each of you contribute to our campus culture and how you can help shift the culture in these very important areas. Then we'll talk about leadership influence. What does it mean to have influence and how do you use it? And last, we'll lead off with the challenge or the charge of each student organization to do something different this next academic year in your programming, in your planning, and your practices to help your classmates be more informed about Title IX. Here is Title IX. Title IX, this video is one that does not have closed captioning. It's 2 minutes or less, Title IX, a brief overview. Fingers crossed.
Title IX is a federal law that prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex in any federally funded education program or activity. At RISD, this encompasses all forms of sexual misconduct. The most common Title IX issue you hear about on college campuses is sexual assault. And it's important to know that you need consent from any sexual partner. But there are many other types of sexual misconduct that you should be aware of. Dating violence. For example, if you've raised your hand to your partner, ask yourself, do you have a question? Is this part of a high five? Are you hailing a cab? If not, put your hand down. People aren't for hitting. Take a deep breath and walk away. Stalking. If you find yourself following someone on campus, ask yourself, am I part of the conga line? Am I a tiger? Am I a federal agent? Am I making a documentary that I have permission to make? If not, turn around and go home. Stalking is not okay. Cyberstalking. You're deep in someone's online profile. You're leaving messages every day. You're calling them incessantly. Ask yourself, is this a relative? Am I searching for my biological parents? Am I doing research on Andy Warhol's third cousin? If not, you're cyberstalking. Turn off the computer and go get a gelato. Unwanted sexual contact and speech. If you're not sure if your sexual contact or suggestive speech is wanted, ask yourself. There's nothing to ask yourself. If you're not sure it's wanted, don't do it. What should you do? If you or a friend experiences sexual misconduct, there are many ways to take action. Reporting, counseling, and medical services are available. Consult a Title IX coordinator to help you lay out a path for what actions you wish to take. Although filing a report may be emotionally difficult, it can help prevent the sexual misconduct from happening in the future, and helps us work toward a community of shared values where all students are safe. Go to sexualmisconduct.risd.edu for more resources.
Well, I promise this video covered in 2 minutes, which takes about a 2-hour training. So any questions, comments about what you just saw? Any new information, anything that was different? So everybody has read our 12-page Title IX policy, watched the video, and has no questions about what Title IX is or what it covers. For those that are more concrete learners, here is the actual federal language from the Civil Rights Act that talks about and enacts and gives schools the jurisdiction to be able to handle Title IX cases. And my role, so all day I spend time in my office making sure that our campus community is educated on Title IX, from program planning to strategic planning, curriculum building, but I also spend time doing investigations and enforcement. And what that means is anytime an individual makes a report under Title IX, the university has an obligation to investigate. So that means sending out emails, getting witnesses, and talking about the incident that happened. But my role in that process is not as a student advocate, and I think that sometimes causes students here concern. Maryville is a very student-centered campus, and we like our students to feel supported. And sometimes in my office, students always ask, well, who do you represent? Whose side are you on, and do you believe me? So when I say that I'm a neutral fact finder, not an advocate, does that bother anybody? Anybody have any questions about who supports you? Oh, right. So does that mean... Go ahead and say, go get your microphone.
So does that mean that if a student does report something and you find out that the information is false and it's like let's say the information is the other way around and like the student who reported it is actually like not telling the truth, the actual like the student that they're reporting is actually the victim, what happens then?
So she asked a really great question, a pretty popular question. The first question is, what happens, what do we do with false reports? If somebody comes to my office and makes statements or comments that another person in the community intends to be false, generally happens is our student code of conduct says all good faith reports. So we have an investigation to figure out what was the person's motive and was the report made in good faith. And if the answer is yes, there is no student conduct repercussions for that particular student. Second part of the question is, what happens when we find out that the person that was the perpetrator was actually the victim? That's part of the investigative process. Any of you have ever put together a puzzle? When you take the puzzle pieces out of a box and dump them, some are right side up, some are upside down, and you have to figure out where the pieces fit. That's what I do in the neutral fact-finding process. I'm trying to determine how many of these puzzle pieces fit, and those puzzle pieces most times are each of you. The person that reported, the victim or the perpetrator responded, witnesses, other folks that might have seen or had information about the investigation. So it's not usually a quick process, and it's a very thorough process with the goal of being to cover every stone to make sure the puzzle piece is complete. It's a great question. And then somebody asked earlier this semester, how many of your cases are false reports? And I will tell you that nationally, less than 2% of all Title IX cases come from false reports. And in my 3.5-year tenure, we've had one. That answer your question? Yep. So,
Are any of like the staff or counselors anything specifically trained for victim advocacy then?
that's a really great question. We have our nurse Lisa in the back, and we have personal counselor that's not here today. And part of their professional licensure and training covers some of those areas. But this summer, in this academic year, we're specifically focusing on opportunities to have health advocates in that space for students who are experiencing those issues. We have really strong partnerships with outside agencies. The YWCA and Safe Connections right now serve as our kind of third-party support for students. And if you're involved in Title IX case, you will get an email from me with a list of these resources and contact information. Great question. Anybody else? So in the video, they quickly covered what areas fall under Title IX. And on the screen here, I have sexual harassment, bullying, and sexual violence or assault. And they're both because most times in our campus community, students only focus on these two areas, sexual harassment and sexual assault, and kind of leave the stuff in the middle as kind of the gray area, where students aren't really sure if that's appropriate or not. We know sexual assault or rape is wrong, and we know sexual harassment in the broad sense is wrong. We oftentimes spend less time on these subcategories. Anybody want to tell me why you or your peers tend to not see the stuff in the middle as relevant? Anybody?
In a lot of cases, it's kind of like the mute syndrome effect, where we only really see the end product of what happens. So the final as some people put it, when someone when the camera breaks. So when you see those more assault type victims are hurt versus the build-up, the cyber stalking or the unwanted hugging and touching that led up to that point.
Right. So essentially, the sexual assault is the end result of behaviors before we got there that we should have been having as red flags. And that is an excellent point, and And that's part of what your role here is today, is to understand and learn what are those red flags, what are those behaviors and attitudes and thoughts and conversations that might potentially get us into here. Everybody that cyberstalks is not going to be a sexual predator. Be very clear about that. But when you look at sexual predators and their MO or their mode of operandus, you will see that most times it can go right from nothing to assaulting somebody. There's behaviors in between that spectrum, and it's really important that as leaders you begin to identify what are those red flags. Want to add anything?
I just want to say those activities all for sexual assault, they're more normalized by people in society today, and most girls that they are told that they're wearing this wrong, stop being dramatic or stop being sensitive. And so most girls, until they're educated, don't realize how much they've been hurt or how much they've let happen that they don't realize isn't okay. Not saying it's their fault, just saying that it's wrong.
That was spot on. Everybody hear what she said? She used the word normalizing, and that our culture, our community, TV, pop culture teaches most times women that that behavior is not that big of a deal. And or they don't see us as being human or equal, and so it's okay that stuff happens. But here's a little bit of a secret. It's not just young girls, it's not just college students, it's full-grown women, my age, that also struggle with trying to figure out whether or not what's happening to them is right or wrong. And that's why I say that 24/7 access to me, you don't have to determine whether or not what is happening is actually wrong. Your only responsibility as leaders is to get the information to me so we can decide. Right? The second slide is the other, less talked about areas of Title IX. We have intimate partner violence, stalking, pregnancy, and parenting. And I want to make sure we focus on dating violence because in my last year at Maryville, I can tell you that I spent more time with students on intakes and investigations around this very area. And this is actually an area I got talking about how our office is the heroes and Title IX can work more closely together because our campus community is seeing an uptick in dating violence. Ariel, talk a little bit about our conversation and why we thought it was important to address.
Definitely, as a college student, global population, and starting to date and get out there in the real world, may not necessarily know the signs of unhealthy relationship, and we want to collaborate and try to bring awareness to that. So, essentially, before these situations escalate.
When I say dating violence, oftentimes we think about physical violence. Does anybody have any examples or behaviors that also include dating violence that's not actual physical abuse? We had emotional abuse down here. Okay, emotional abuse. Anybody else? What are other behaviors that fall under dating violence?
Like economic abuse or control, like spending money.
Financially.
I said yelling over here.
What did you say? Verbal.
Blackmailing. Manipulation, yeah. And so, is anybody surprised when I tell you that we're seeing more of that on this campus? And so, be very clear, do not tell the president Carla said campus is unsafe. Get that on video. I didn't say that. What I want to be clear about, in a community this small, I'm able to anecdotally look at where we're having trouble spots or issues. And in this past year, dating violence has been at the higher end of the list. Everybody clear? I want to keep my job here. And I think, though I'm not a psychologist, I think that this generation of students gets less and less positive information in pop culture about what it means to date in a healthy way. Agree or disagree? Agree. When's the last time you saw a video on YouTube or on Instagram that showed relationship goals? Today. And you see a picture of two people hugged up and smiling, and that's all they post. And they don't post about the times when that relationship's not going so well. And most times if you see friends in relationships, we want to be in that relationship. We don't peel back the layers and figure out how to get in it, and should you really stay? And so this next video is a quick 2.5-minute clip, and you have to pay really close attention because it's a male and a female engaging in a new romantic relationship. So at your tables, get some paper and a pen so you can watch the video with the idea of what are the red flags, where do you see warning signs, or if you see warning signs. And then I'll stop the video at the end of that little, and it says, their actors is a not a real relationship. And then the video is going to prompt us with several questions. And Ariel's going to take you guys through those questions, and you're going to answer them at your table. Okay, get ready, take a few minutes to get ready. Figure out at your table who's going to be your note taker. And then we'll have a few tables report out what some of their observations are. You guys ready? Again, this is not a real relationship, but it does show some verbal and emotional abuse. So again, if you do not want to see the video, you are not required to watch or participate. Please take care of yourself.
Hey, you see that girl over there?
Oh, she kind of cute.
Why go talk to her?
Nah.
Go. Come on, bro.
Hey,
I've seen you around school and now it's pretty cute. Can I get you number?
yeah, it's 817.
Love, it's a special day. We should celebrate and appreciate that you and me found something pretty neat. And I know some say this day is arbitrary. But it's a good excuse for that to use, baby. I know what to do, baby.
My friend? Chill out. My friend, I just told you.
Dude, like, she had a tendency to take my phone. I wasn't even picking music and stuff. So I'm on my, I'm not even on it. It's on my desk. I'm doing my work. She comes over there. I talked to one person and she just said, "Give me your phone." I'm not even on that mess.
And she took it.
She took it. So I'm just like,
I'm just talking to my
why are you
friend.
talking to
Adrian.
me? I told you I didn't want you talking.
Okay, so why were you walking?
And we just have a project.
I don't care. Why are you walking? Why don't you meet me after school?
You know what? Hey, I'll see you tomorrow.
No.
We'll finish the project tomorrow.
Let's go.
She like, again? She like,
How many times I gotta tell you stop talking to this dude?
hey bro, she
I'll be texting you all day.
Look,
I'll be
she
texting.
texting.
Shut up.
I don't
I'll
touch.
be texting you all day.
Look, you don't talk to her like that.
Hey, shut up. That's why he's a female.
Hey, push her like that. Hey, she don't know. Hey,
I'm just saying.
you're working. You back my family.
I have a dude. I'm emotional.
You just need to leave him. He's no good for you. If he does it once, he's gonna do it again. And if he stays, it's only gonna get worse.
But I love him.
What you need to do is go to him and just say you're done. Because if he loved you, he wouldn't do that to you.
We need to talk.
Before you say anything, I'd like to say I'm sorry. And all that stuff back there, it wasn't me. You know it wasn't me.
You hurt me.
I know, I'm sorry. Things will change, I promise you. I promise you. So I know all that stuff happened, but I promise you things are gonna change.
You promise?
I promise you.
Okay.
I love you.
I love you too.
question. Take some time in your group, about 30 seconds to a minute to discuss this question. Somebody take notes, and Ariel will come around and have a couple tables that choose to report out and do so. Really? Excellent. Oh, good for your time. How old was the video? About 10 more seconds. All right, let's call time. Any tables want to share? Any tables want to share?
You guys got some good ideas.
Let's give her the floor.
So like it started off and she was like, hey, can I have your message? And I was like, yeah,
So she said they moved really fast, didn't really know each other, and just gave each other their numbers. So I totally agree, but I work orientation move-in day every year. And can I tell you, if I had a dime for every student leader, upperclassman that cased, is that the wrong word, too aggressive word, cased, incoming first year students to see who might be an option. To say, hey, this is my number, where do you live on campus? And even though this scenario seems to move really fast, I would offer to you that this is what I see every year when the semester starts. Rand is not really participating, I guess you are, yes?
How often do you see students following each other on social media accounts and start DMing each other?
Before they even know each other, it happens all the time. I would say in about 95 to 98% of my investigations, part of the evidence that I collect is those DMs, instant messages, Instagram follows, comments, and likes on photographs. So if it seems to happen fast, in real time on this campus, it happens all the time. So I would offer to student leaders, when you are working at START and other areas where you are seen as having an unequal power over a new student, is that the time to meet somebody new? Is that the time to ask for somebody's number? Well, I would say to you, that's a hard no. So while you're working orientation and in the school year, do the job you've been assigned. And if you happen to somebody you like, wait till the semester gets on and rolling. Wait till you're no longer a peer mentor or a student or leader and have that conversation. If you venture to have it before, you run the risk, right, of somebody saying, I feel like I couldn't have said no when they asked because they were a START leader. I feel like I had to give them my telephone number. I didn't know how to say no. That happens all the time. So one more question. Read the question for us.
Right, so what are some other signs of abusive relationships outside of physical abuse? And what are some examples you saw in the video? You guys heard right here?
Who's ready?
Well, possessiveness was one thing. Also trying to cut off people from, or cutting off your friend or your girlfriend's friends from hanging out with them.
That was good. You said possessiveness. Now, when you come to my office and talk about this, you know what I hear? I just really like that person. I always wanted to be around that person. I care what happened to that person. I just want to get to know them more. I wasn't being possessive. We just didn't need to have all of their friends out with us to get to know each other. So there's always two sides of the coin. Unless you and this other person are in constant communication on whether or not you want the behavior to continue, potentially having Title IX issue in my office. Like that?
Coming.
Another thing is like when I saw the video, it was kind of playing and then like shoved her into the locker, and then at the end when he was like, "Oh, my chain," ain't no chain. It was strong the whole time. Like I get like her friend is right like this. If he really like loving like many kids, did it in the first place, like everybody makes mistakes, but that's a big mistake to come back from.
That's an excellent point. So I guess the question I have for you guys is one time a deal breaker? So being pushed one time is a deal breaker.
Yes.
Would you have the courage to break it with that person?
Yes.
Or somebody said yes? What about her friends? In the video, her friends are offering her wise counsel on the high school steps. Who here thinks her friends are offering her good advice? Okay, good advice, good advice. What else would you have said if you were her friend in that moment?
So something I would say to her is like if you didn't grow up in an abusive home, like don't tolerate that with anybody else. And even if you do grow up in an abusive home, like learn from that. Just know that like you don't have to accept having a child with abusive.
Thank you. So I think what's important to understand, the YWCA does a really great job of this, is that they say, oftentimes as friends, we have the biggest influence by just letting our friend know whatever you decide, I will still support you. Because at times when you tell a friend, I don't think your partner is good for you, how many of you and your friend end up continue being friends? Most times you end up getting mad at the friend and drawn closer to the partner. So I'd offer to you, everything you said is not inaccurate, but think about how we can connect that friend to resources on campus to get additional support, counseling, and get her in touch with people on campus who have the training to manage the situation. Is that fair? Resources, personal counseling. Who knows where personal counseling is located on campus? Okay. Nurse Lisa and the Heroes are located in where? Right. So the big takeaway is it's okay to be a friend and support, but make sure we get the student to places on campus that provide extenuating long-term support. Okay? Anything else I missed? So this next activity requires some volunteers. And again, because we're talking about sensitive stuff, I don't want you to volunteer if you don't want to participate. We need 10 to 15 volunteers. Daryl's gonna pick you guys. You're gonna line up along this wall. We don't have a ton of space. We're gonna line up along this wall. About 5 or 6 over here, and 5 or 6 over here. No donuts, please. And face the audience, face your peers. Some over here. No, everybody go on both sides, both sides, both sides. Some more over here.
We have one volunteer.
And so when you line up, if you don't mind kind of getting maybe shoulder to shoulder, and get back as far as you can. And we don't have a ton of space, so don't take like really large steps. Take like enough so we can notice you're moving, but don't try not to get into the wall. Okay? Want to give them some direction?
So I'm gonna give you guys some prompts, and if this has ever happened to you or applies to you, I want you to take a step forward. So starting with the first one, if you have ever had to avoid certain activities at night because you were afraid of getting sexually assaulted by a stranger, take a step forward. All right. If you ever had to make the decision to alter your path, like cross the street or go a different way, because you were afraid of possibly being assaulted, take a step forward. All right. If if you ever walked someone home because you feared for their safety, please take a step forward. So if you ever had someone make unwanted comments about your body, or please take a step forward. If you ever had someone look at you in a sexual way that made you feel unsafe or uncomfortable, please take a step forward. Okay, if you ever had to worry about wearing a revealing outfit, increase your likelihood of being sexually assaulted, please take a step forward. If your partner ever called you names in the heat of an argument, please take a step forward. If you ever given your partner the silent treatment, take a step forward. If you have ever been disrespected or dismissed by your partner, please take a step forward.
All right, so everybody take a look at where your peers are standing. Good look. We all started back against the wall. Look around and then tell me if you're surprised at the positioning of your peers. Anybody surprised who stepped forward? How many stepped forward? Anybody surprised? Why not? Why not? She is absolutely right. This is a visual demonstration of what's going on in our culture and tells you that Title IX isn't just for a certain population of our campus. And these behaviors, we never said the word rape or sexual assault once as an act. All these things are things on the spectrum that could potentially get us there. But look how many of your peers that you respect and that you work with every day have already had this in their experiences.
So, what do you think the purpose of this activity is? Personally, statements, your thoughts on the reason behind this?
I think one thing was so just to realize that it doesn't happen to you. You're not alone. You have people that you talk to and go to that share similar experience to you. You can talk to them how did you get through this? What is your advice? And then these people, everybody's standing up here, people that are sitting and with you. If you need to go to Carla or counseling, we're the people for you to go to. You need that extra support.
Thank you, volunteers, for being vulnerable and being truthful with your responses. And this exercise should also arm leaders to be careful how you discuss topics that relate to Title IX. We all are entitled to our opinions. We all have really strong opinions about politics and other highly, I would say, triggering things, but you never know in a space like this who might be impacted by the words that you are saying. So remember to be kind, not to judge, and not to shame each other when you've had these experiences. Enough of you have shared them to know that it's more common than we choose to want to believe sometimes. So we talked about Title IX. We did that down and dirty video, 2 minutes or less. We talked what Title IX covers, what my role is. Now we're talking about how do we get here? How and why do I have this job full time? Why do we have personal counseling and the heroes promoting this message? And I would offer to you that 2 really important, significant social constructs, rape culture and toxic masculinity, are the 2 main drivers of behaviors that fall under Title IX. And I asked you guys earlier, did you know what rape culture was, or toxic masculinity? You all said yes. So somebody tell me, what is rape culture? Be brave and tackle this social construct. Sociology majors out there? I see you smiling at me because I know you know. Well, I won't force you. No takers? Oh, you just Googled it? It's all right, it's okay.
A society or environment whose prevailing social attitudes have an effect of normalizing or trivializing sexual assault and abuse.
Spot on. Okay, what about toxic masculinity? What is toxic masculinity?
It's basically like how society gives like gender norms to men. For example, like men have to be the dominant gender in a relationship, or just different things like that.
Thank you, that's absolutely right. So we talked about what they are. How are those two things related? And why would I be talking about these two things together? Right here.
Toxic masculinity actually contributes to rape culture because when you have this idea in your head that masculinity is more powerful than femininity, then it kind of turns into, well, I have power over you, I can do what I want.
So, I don't know if you guys still watch MTV. Does anybody here still watch MTV? Is that just me? Okay, all right. And so MTV did a couple of episodes on really important topics that people in this generation should be hearing about. And there's a great clip on that. So I play it. Do you have a question?
So for me, the thing that I've seen in rape culture, especially talking on this issue, rape culture continues to talk about objectifying women, and toxic masculinity that perpetuates the ability for men to take those women as trophies or like as a thing and not acknowledging their presence as being.
Spot on. Okay, so this one may have two brief commercials.
I'm always going to be a maker, and I think a company is the coolest thing you can build. I'm Adam, and I make robots. You never know when inspiration is going to strike, so I take my Surface Pro everywhere. Part of an entrepreneur's job is to get stuff done. And I like to do like 4 things at once. The new Surface Pro can handle all of my programs. I can paint, I can mold, I can code. I have it on all the time. It's fantastic. We get to build toys for kids and change the world. It's a big deal.
Can't get enough of America's Next Top Model? Watch full episodes and never before seen clips on VH1.com and the VH1 app. Download now for free.
We have a serious sexual assault problem in the United States. One of the reasons why, toxic masculinity. Now let's be clear, masculinity is not inherently a bad thing. What's bad is when society tells us that being a man means things like strength and power at the expense of being allowed to really feel things. Imagine your favorite male protagonist. Is he cold and aloof, hardened, brooding? Does he scowl, make dark jokes in the face of danger? Well, this is our cultural ideal of manhood. It gets worse when anything that society deems feminine, like having feelings, gets pegged as a threat to manhood. The worst thing a manly man can do is act like a woman. Side note, this is also why toxic masculinity is super homophobic. DeAndre Levy of the Detroit Lions wrote recently, quote, "It's truly astounding how many awful things that occur in this world because men are afraid of appearing weak." Levy notes that in locker rooms, power is measured in sexual conquest, dehumanizing women in the process. We're so caught up in these toxic ideas that a woman granting her affirmative consent to sex, well, that too often becomes secondary to our needs. Let's put that in the context of American colleges and universities, where sexual assault has become an epidemic. Reported sex crimes increased 126% from 2001 to 2013. College is a petri dish for bad ideas about sexual behavior, a place that often magnifies toxic conceptions of masculinity. Too many men learn in college to view women as things to be aggressively obtained, to be conquered, to be used for our enjoyment and pleasure. That's just part of what we know as rape culture. All the ideas and beliefs that make people think sexual violence is acceptable. Rape culture includes the misogynist images we're fed in popular culture, where male violence is depicted as sexually alluring and something that enhances the protagonist's manhood. Toxic masculinity, when you think about it, is very selfish. A lot of that is about entitlement. We're entitled to a voice, entitled to a job, entitled to sex. All these things we're told we deserve because we're guys. Some of us don't react well when we're challenged. Women disagreeing with us or telling us no, for example. In those moments, We react how we've learned to, with aggression, with harassment, with violence. We've got to unlearn that stuff. Basically, toxic masculinity has screwed us guys up. Anger, violence, and entitlement are not admirable qualities. And coming to grips with that is the first step in understanding that ending sexual assault is our problem to solve too. So how do we solve this? How do we detox? Hold friends accountable and intervene when you see harassment or assault. Don't be the guy who wishes he'd said something to stop his friend. Listen to survivors and believe them when they speak up. If you don't, it has a chilling effect for others who have experienced sexual assault. They see other survivors being shut down or dismissed and think it would be easier to stay quiet. Read and understand legislation that's addressing the problem, including a bill called the Campus Safety and Accountability Act, which would create incentives for schools to better protect students from sexual assault. If you support bills like this, let your senator or representative know. If not, be constructive and suggest ways to improve them. And most of all, learn about and practice affirmative consent, which means all parties in sexual activity communicating an explicit yes. And when one person's mental state is impaired because they're drunk or high, there is no consent. I'm Jamil Smith, and this is The Racket.
So did everybody get the clear definition of rape culture, toxic masculinity, and what is a relationship? Any questions about the interrelationship? Anybody want to challenge the idea that toxic masculinity or rape culture is why we have this problem? So we're good? So this next quick exercise gives you an opportunity to look at what's called a rape pyramid. And this pyramid was created by some social justice organizations to give you a visual of how we get from normalizing behaviors and attitudes to assault. You guys see it from back there? It's too small. And the reason why these colors are not defined, they kind of lead, because there is disagreement about certain behaviors and attitudes that may or may not be normalizing or may or may not be degrading. I think the top red, we can all pretty much agree, is equal assault. We tend to have difference of opinions on these areas in here. And based on how you were raised, your sensibilities, your level of experience sometimes, we might see some of these as no big deal, whereas other people that are more intentional about this issue might see it up the scale. Take about 5 minutes at your table, see if you can read the stuff in the yellow, orange, and reddish orange, and tell me whether or not you guys have disagreement about where some of these are placed on this pyramid. For example, I went to a conference and talked about porn. And there was a hot conversation debate about the role that porn plays in rape culture. And I don't think in that conversation anybody was wrong, but definitely difference of opinion about whether or not pornography contributes to the issue. So take about 5 minutes at your tables, walk around, and talk to each other about whether or not you agree or disagree with anything that's placed in this area of our pyramid. Because I think the definition sounds pretty black and white. If you get down to the nuts and bolts of what falls under these categories, there isn't always consensus or agreement. That's part of the problem. Take about 1 more minute. there areas of disagreement, areas of discussion?
I actually mentioned the fact that it's interesting to me that this is set up as a triangle going up because, yes, all of these things towards the bottom are things that lead to physical assault, but at the same time, that's not all they are. They're psychologically damaging in themselves, and, like, yes, it's something that leads up to rape, but they also are things that need to be taken care of themselves. Like, I don't know, they're problems, and they're not just issues that lead to one bad issue, they're all issues.
Excellent commentary, and I would offer to you, my office is always looking for opportunities to rebrand or put out materials. So if you'd like to collaborate with me at any point, suggestions about how we can rebrand this, take into consideration, I'm absolutely open to it. So thank you for that feedback. It was excellent.
Anybody else have a comment? You guys have a lot to say over here.
Just talking about placements and wars and the orange zone, one's the red zone, one we talked about was Lovin. I thought that should be higher up on the list. And it's something we really normalize. We talk about different settings like Allison is in nursing, and she works at a nursing home, and so I was just saying that you would think that growth would be higher up, but as a CNA, I've been growth more than that, and so that's why it becomes normal, because if you're a nurse or CNA, you just expect to put up with that and not say anything.
Thank you for sharing. I'm sorry that happened to you, and I do hope the place of employment in Sixth Maryville, we can chat later about making sure that features. I think the other thing to note is that even though this is displayed for conversation's sake, it is not a substitute for having to read the university policy that provides specific guidance and definitions that constitute some of this behavior. So according to our policy, groping would fall under non-consensual sexual contact. Any contact of a sexual nature, right? And it doesn't have to be in your sex organ places. If it's sexual and it's unwelcome and there's not consent, that potentially violates university policy. So though culture normalizes behaviors and definitions, it is an absolute policy violation for Maryville. And I think that's where the disconnect is. We use the world's definitions. We don't want to read university policy to know that your university believes this is a real problem, and we have a policy that says this is absolutely not tolerated on this campus. Normalized or not, and it's not a defense in Title IX case. Oh, it's normalized. That won't cut it. Thanks for sharing. Anybody else?
We also talked about Lovin and related back to college. Like just your average college degree, a lot of times I feel like women have to be hyper conscious of the things that they are doing, the things they're wearing, just because a lot of times men want to dance with you, they want to talk to you. I can't even count on all 10 years how many times I've been grabbed just because, and it's something I didn't even realize I was accustomed to. Like, I would just have replied to stuff and I'm like, oh, this is, I have something to do today. Like, you know, I'm used to it, and it was like normal occurrence.
Thank you for sharing. I think why it's really important for us to hold each other accountable and to be really clear about it's not just my office responsibility. Each one of us are responsible for the other and for this campus culture. So there are on-campus parties, which never happens here, right? We never have parties on campus, never? Never, right? Never. If you see that behavior and you now know it's not okay, and you know from her that it's unwelcome, what's your next move? Friends in the space, men in the space, if you were in that area, what would you do in that situation? So the next conversation is talking about bystander prevention, but just in a real kind of human-to-human conversation, it isn't always on that person that's being objectified to stop the behavior. Collectively, our voice is stronger than one, and if all of us decided that wasn't okay, how long do you think that would keep happening at campus parties? If we all were intentional and decided that's not okay. Any guesses how long person that's doing it, who's gonna step up and say, hey, we don't tolerate that on this campus. You're welcome to stay and party, but you have to make sure you're clear about expectations of behavior. That's what each of you collectively can do to change the culture on this campus. I can't control the world outside of Maryville, though I'd like to, but I can, and we can all influence the campus culture at Maryville. Everybody agree? Everybody agree? Before we move on to vice intervention, I went to the NCAA Inclusion Conference last week and had the pleasure of meeting the first transgender male Olympic athlete, and he competes in the triathlon. He's an incredible athlete. And he is a spokesmodel for a company called Bonobos. They are a custom suit company. They make really, really fancy, swaggy suits for men. And his name is Chris Moser, one of the models. And the company decided that in 2018, enough was enough. The Me Too movement really moved that organization and said, how can we let these women know we support them? We make men's clothing. What's our connection? So they got together and decided they're going to make a PSA video that played during the 2018 ESPY Awards, the sports Oscars. And this about 2-minute video played in solidarity to the Me Too movement. And their whole goal was to help men understand that it's okay to redefine the idea of what it means to be masculine. So we'll play this video. It's called Evolve the Definition. It's pretty powerful.
Masculine.
Adjective.
Having qualities or appearance
Traditionally associated with men.
especially strength and aggressiveness.
Some of the synonyms are
Macho, manly, muscular,
well-built, red-blooded,
Red-blooded?
my goodness, strapping, strong.
brawny, powerful.
None of these really sound like me.
I think that definition is a little scary.
It's too small for something so big.
It's all about trying to get people to conform and be a certain way.
I think that's what gets us in trouble, is when we say that there's only one way to be a man.
So many individuals, they try and fit, and it just gets to a point where it's too much.
Where they are doing harm to each other and harm to themselves.
You don't have to do that.
You define your own masculinity. You define who you are.
For me, being masculine is being honest.
This is the body that I have. This is what I know. So to me, this is what a man is.
For me, being masculine means being brave enough to be who I am.
Being able to smile, being able to cry, being able to love and be loved.
That's the man I want to be.
What does it mean to me to be masculine? It's more a question of what does it mean to be human?
Some of you in the market for a new suit, but I think this company is getting it right. But the irony of this whole video and initiative Chris shared with me over lunch was that it was a room full of men trying to decide how to have this conversation. And guess who came with the idea and made the video? The one woman in the room.
Yeah.
She's the one that decided, hey guys, it's not that difficult. Why don't we do? And they're like, okay. And this played during the ESPYs, and I thought it was an excellent commercial. And Chris said, you can't believe the online social media backlash we received in this video. How dare you tell us men how to be men? And so, as we know, the fight continues outside this campus, but I offer to you that on this campus, there isn't any room for gray areas or interpretation. We're going to get on the same page about what those issues are and govern ourselves accordingly. Can we all agree? We talked about Title IX. We know what it covers. We know what I do. We know about rape, culture, toxic masculinity. Now, what's your role, and how do we effectively get you involved in the conversation to change behavior? Two broad categories. Be able to identify so you can report and be a bystander. And the second thing is seeing yourself as a change agent or an influencer, and how you use that influence to change the conversation amongst your peers and the activities that your student organization puts on. We'll get to that. So first, let's talk a little bit about Maryville's Step Up program, and I'll turn it over to Ariel, who is part of our Heroes program.
All right, so has anybody ever heard of Step Up? Okay, that's great, that's good. Step Up is a bystander intervention program. You may be wondering, like, well, what is that? Well, as a bystander, you may see a situation happen, but as intervening, like actually stepping up to make a difference if you see something that's going on. Some of our goals are to help promote people helping other people, and also helping students gain the confidence to help intervene in a situation. So if you're wondering how to join Step Up, you can come to me, Ariel, or you can come talk to Lisa Munch, who's our nurse practitioner on campus, who's located in the back of the library in the Health and Wellness office. So these are some 5 steps of how to intervene. So first you want to notice the event. You want to be aware of your surroundings. Like say you're at a party, like notice that something may be off. And you want to interpret it as a problem. You want to see some red flags of a crisis going on. And you also want to assume personal responsibility. If you see a crisis going on, actually stepping up and being that agent of change. Have you guys ever heard of the bystander effect?
Yes.
So the bystander effect is tendency for people who are in a group, they're less likely to intervene than if you're by themselves. That's kind of crazy to think, right? They're less likely to help to intervene if they're in a group, because a lot of times you may think, oh, I'm in a group, somebody's going to step in, somebody's going to do something. But while you're thinking that, everybody else is thinking that, and nobody's doing anything. So just making sure if you see a situation, make sure you're that person to make a change. And also having the skills to intervene, Step Up teaches us how to intervene in different situations on how to do that and implement the help. So here's some 5 ways on how to intervene: direct, distract, delegate, delay, and document. The 5 Ds. So as for directing, this is a direct way to intervene. If you see a crisis going on, so to say you're at a party and you see a girl who's on a couch, she's incapacitated, she's been drinking all night, and you notice the guy comes over and tries to take her to his room, and you know that they don't really know each other. You take that and you directly intervene. You come up to the perpetrator and you're like, hey, what are you doing? Like, this isn't okay. You directly intervene in this situation. And with this, you always want to be safe, and you don't want to necessarily get in an argument with the perpetrator, because this could truly escalate. As for distract, I think this is a really clever way to intervene. If you're seeing a situation, you could potentially engage the person who's being harassed. You could be like, oh, hey, I love your dress, or being right in the middle of the situation and taking the attention away from what's going on and trying to get this person out of the situation. So to say, if you notice somebody's being followed, you could come up to the girl and act like her best friend and help her in that situation. Or delegate. You can give out tasks. Sometimes when we're in a crisis, we feel stuck watching, but you could be like, hey, can you call 911? Hey, can you call campus security? Different things in delegating out tasks, making everybody a part of it. Or delay. Sometimes you may not have stepped up in a moment of crisis, but after the events happen, you can maybe ask that person who's a victim, are you okay? Can I do anything for you? Do you need help getting to your destination? Different things like that. And document, especially in this modern day world, we have the whole world at the touch of our fingertips, and you could document a situation that's going on. If you notice something with your phone, you can get key notifiers in the environment, also the time and place that this is going on. And also, if you are taking a videotape or something, you may want to ask the victim of the situation, is it okay if I release this video? Is it okay if I pass this along to the authorities? And so, also, when you're intervening in a situation, you want to make sure it's safe, early, effective, and you're being kind. So, safe. Assessing the surroundings and the situation, like, if I intervene in this situation, will I endanger myself? Make sure that you're aware of that, aware of the environment that you're in, the people that you're around. Early, don't wait till the problem is is a huge problem. You want to intervene as early as you can, and if you notice something's off, just go ahead and intervene. Like, you could ask, if you're not quite sure what's going on, ask the person who's potentially the victim, are you okay? What's going on here? And effective, and that's kind of just ties into the steps that we had, the 5 Ds, and just being as effective as you can as a bystander, intervening anytime, especially knowing that some of these situations can be very sensitive and really affect somebody's psyche. So just being as kind as you can to that person who's the victim.
Thank you. So Step Up is a formal program that you can go through additional trainings. It sounds easy-ish when you're not faced with a situation. It can be a little more difficult when you're having to step up to your peers, or step up to somebody that's in leadership, or supposed to have a present organization when you're just a member. So we understand that these skills need to be developed. So part of Ariel's role in the Heroes in Our States is you go through a comprehensive training with lots of hands-on practice so you get skilled at doing this. The other part of the equation, though, is what is your personal responsibility, whether you go through step-up training or not. And I would offer to you that over half the cases that I receive come to me from third-party reports, which means that your peers, you included, are already doing the right thing, and you are getting the information to me. And I would encourage you to continue to do that, because in a community where we see ourselves as one team, one family, everybody needs somebody to watch their back. And students say, well, if I report or I tell you, does that mean I'm snitching? What does that mean for me? I would offer to you that somebody's safe return home, I think, is more valuable than worrying about our position and our popularity on campus. Okay? How many of you have seen Maryville's 2016 YouTube Step Up video? Everybody? You see, it's a really great video they made in 2006. I hear the rumor is they are casting for new models to the 2019 version, but I really like this version because for me, it captures the essence of why I chose to join this Maryville community.
Have you ever been concerned about a situation
and wanted to help but didn't? You're not alone. Step Up is important because it teaches us to identify potential problems before they become harmful to ourselves or someone else.
Sometimes people don't help because they don't notice what's going on.
I know when people don't know what's going on, they're not going to do anything about it.
I pledge to notice more, to pay more attention, to be more aware of my surroundings. It's up to you. It's up to me. It's up to us.
Together, we can make a difference.
Sometimes people don't help because they don't know if it's really a problem.
I pledge
To investigate more.
To find out more when something might be unclear.
To ask others what they think. Sometimes people don't help because it's hard to go against a group. I pledge
to stand up for what's right.
Do what you think is right. Have the courage to step up.
Have the confidence to step up.
Sometimes people don't step up because they assume someone else will help.
I pledge
To take personal responsibility.
to be the first to help.
To take it upon myself.
To intervene more. Sometimes people don't help because they don't know what to do. I pledge to learn how to help directly or indirectly.
To learn what to do.
Depending on the situation.
It's up to you.
It's up to me.
It's up to us.
Together we can make a difference.
Sometimes people don't help because they think the cost is too high.
But what are the costs of not intervening?
What would you want someone to do for you?
I pledge to intervene more.
To intervene early.
Before the problem becomes bigger.
Be smart, be safe, but intervene. Do something.
Do something now.
I pledge to be my brother's keeper.
To be my sister's keeper.
To look at things from a different perspective.
To stand up for what's right.
To make a positive difference in someone's life.
What kinds of things can you do to help?
How would you feel?
What would you want?
We're all in this together.
I pledge to step up the next time I see someone in need. Will you?
Let's be there for each other.
It's up to you.
It's up to me.
It's up to us. Together we can make a difference. One team, one family.
Offre sette.
Ficama, step up.
Step up.
Step up. Step up.
So we are interested in So if Ariel, they're interested in being models and promoting this in the next video, what can they do to get a hold of you guys and participate? put in the student leaders group chat. Student leaders group chat. Are you on that?
We can put it in the group chat, but we are going to kind of make a more current video of this in August with some of your faces, I hope. So we are working with like the campus media people, but it looks like it's going to be in mid-August sometime. So if you guys are available to be part of it, let us know in the office. What else can I say? We are also kind of looking at ways to get the Step Up program out to as many people as possible. So if it's something that, let's say, your Buzz Hall leader or your organization, if you would ever want the full presentation given to your group, we would be happy to do that. You just need to let one of the heroes or our office know. Okay?
Thank you. I'm glad everybody's excited. So we talked about what Title IX is. You know what I do. You know what's covered. You understand how rape culture and toxic masculinity can contribute to those issues. You also learn if you're going to be a student leader, the reporting and stepping up isn't just aspirational. We feel like it's an obligation on this campus. The last presentation talks a little bit about being change agents and influencers and how you propel that forward to change the campus culture. Anybody in here not know who these two people are? Infamous or famous, polarizing or not? Does anybody not know who these two people are? All right, we have Steve Jobs and we have Kim Kardashian. I would offer to you that either or both in this day and age is considered to be a change agent and an influencer. And any takers of who wants to argue that I might be wrong or they should or shouldn't be those things. Come on, somebody. Right here in the front. You ready? Or a lot of times I will say that people think about change agents as only as positive things. And so they see images that may or may not be positive. They have different feelings about that person being an influencer.
I do think she's also implemented a lot of change. So she's done both. Like, if you've seen what she's been doing in the recent media, you've seen like the upward that she's done for a lot of people, but she has implemented a lot of change also in the police.
You're arguing that Kim Kardashian, you heard it here first, is a change agent and an influencer. Challenge. Anybody in the back?
I actually want to agree with what Yasmin said. Kim Kardashian actually went back to law school, and in the past 90 days, easy. 17 inmates. So, yeah, she's actually done a lot of good, whether that gets as much attention as it should or not. I think people overlook a lot of the things that she does because they write her off as an influencer to really.
That's fair. Anybody want to disagree? Everybody agree? I think both of you are correct, and I'm not an authority on these issues. And I would offer you that both, regardless of what you think about them, have implemented and been effective change agents and influencers. So I don't think Kim has officially gone back to law school. I went to law school. She hasn't spent time there yet, but she's working on getting her law license and studying, which is huge and admirable. No shade at all. I support her for that. And Steve Jobs transformed how we think about the cell phone and how we think about office and work attire. So I'm arguing with you, it doesn't matter how you see yourselves. You all opted to volunteer to be a free student leader organization. So whether your peers see you as this or not, by taking on that role, that's kind of who you end up being. Whether you are Kim Kardashian or Steve Jobs, your role on this campus is important, and somebody's always watching you. I've watched the Kardashians, so I'm a Kim supporter, and I saw that she gets $1 million a tweet for tweeting about products. Now, I'm not going to offer you that's anything scientific or not. That's a huge deal that many people think that her opinion of something is relevant. I can tell you that whether you believe it or not, your classmates take what you do, they watch what you do, and that's how they form their attitudes and behaviors about appropriate conduct on campus. So the textbook definition of a change agent is someone that's inside of an organization that's specifically working towards some really clear goals that deal with organizational improvement, effectiveness, and development. And they talk about characteristics of a change agent, and whether or not you embody all these or not By signing up to organizations, you are expected, right? That it's going to be part of your role in your organization. An influence is simply that, somebody that influences people. And you have the opportunity to influence for good and promote positive messages, say nothing at all and stay silent, that sends a really clear message, or supporting things that are in opposition to Maryville University's campus culture. I would ask each of you, which side of history do you want to be on when it comes to the issue of Title IX? You've seen other universities in the newspaper, right? I didn't blast and put their articles up here, but I won't call them by name. But other local universities spend a lot of time in the news these last few years for not getting it right. Do we want to see Maryville on the cover of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch? Do you want to see Maryville tweeted about because our campus decided this wasn't going to be a relevant issue? I don't. I like my job. I like working here, right? But I want each of you to take ownership over these issues so you spend time figuring out not just how you can plan fun programs, but how you can inform along the way. Can I get a commitment from each of you to decide to think about this issue differently? Take ownership over your part in it? Yes? Permanently yes? So this is a charge to you about taking action. Or will you please read these bullet points for me?
All right, so be the change you want to see. I love that. And don't delegate your positional influence. What do you mean?
Don't delegate your positional influence. And I think about positional influence in this way. If you are the president of an organization and you have a constitution, I'm pretty sure in that constitution it talks about what your role is. And you might not be feeling good that day, but you can't delegate the president's role to the treasurer or to a member. You were elected to serve for a reason. You can't delegate that.
So culture shifts can be slow, but personal responsibility can be immediate. And remember, someone is always watching. What will your organization's legacy be on the right side of history?
And last, the challenge to each organization represented here today. I know that we're implementing Engage, which is another, I think, technology different than OrgSync that allows for organizations to be able to log their programs they plan and put them on the calendar. My challenge to each of you today is how will you prepare, program, and promote a healthy campus culture where consent is celebrated, sexual harassment is not tolerated, and relationship goals are synonymous with healthy relationships. And the last day you have in this training, when you guys are going through planning programs, how are you going to actively talk about these issues and make sure they become a part of your organization's culture? If you're hosting a party on campus and alcohol is permitted, are you waiting for my office or Lisa's office to send you materials put out about alcohol awareness and sexual assault? Be proactive. When you are recruiting members on your campus, ask them whether or not they're in good conduct standing. Have they had issues and concerns with this type of issues? If so, you don't want them or need them representing the organization. Is that fair? So your involvement doesn't have to be deep, but it needs to be consistent. And I believe that if all of us together make it our responsibility, we can shift our campus culture around these issues. Questions, comments? And I gave you your time back. You did 30 minutes. You did it. You did it. Woo!